أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أما بعد, welcome to a new series, first one in a few years' time, alhamdulillah. After the Journey to the Hereafter series, we're going to just begin a short course on zakat. As we mentioned before, this is obviously a main pillar from the pillars of Islam, and it's something that needs to be gone through. We said we're going to get through the chapter of zakat because of the importance of zakat and how many Muslims get it wrong. Unfortunately, zakat is not just like a sin that you repent from. If a person does it wrong, not only is it a major sin, not only is it a problem, but it remains a debt on your neck for the rest of your life. If a person does not pay zakat properly, they paid it to the wrong place, they didn't pay the right amount, etc., then they have to go and redo their zakat. They actually have to go back and pay their zakat all over again. So this is something that shouldn't be belittled. It shouldn't be belittled. And when you speak in the community of how many people do not know the ABCs of zakat, well, it's actually something very, very, very disturbing. Very disturbing. I know I done a lesson here last Ramadan, just something really quick as a summary, or maybe the Ramadan before, I can't remember, I believe it was the last one. And a lot of the brothers had told me that they had made many major mistakes with their zakat, and these were brothers who were older. So now they have to go back and redo their zakat altogether. Some of the brothers in Sydney, I was talking to them, and they were talking about their fathers and their fathers' business, and how their fathers haven't paid zakat. So we sat down and we worked it out. Their father owed, at that time, approximately, just a quick estimation we done, $1 million in zakat. $1 million in zakat because he had not paid it over the years. Some people, they gave, for example, $10,000 as a donation to a masjid, and they thought that that could be given as zakat. We said no, it can't be given as zakat. So unless that masjid was going to somehow give you your donation back, and then you were going to use it in a charitable means, now you have to go back and pay another $10,000 to a place that is deserving of your zakat. Okay, so a lot of people, yes, their intention may be good, they may have wanted to do the right thing, but the zakat has rules. Just like the salah has rules, zakat also has rules. And your good intention is not enough. If a person prayed without wudu, even if he prayed qiyam al-layl the whole night, but he prayed without wudu, it's not rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, you may get reward for the reading of Quran or the tasbih that you do or the dua that you do. But are you rewarded for a salah itself? No. You're not rewarded for a salah itself. If imagine praying on purpose, without wudu, that's sinful. You actually get sins. Not hasanat, sins. Because you've done it the wrong way on purpose. When it comes to zakat, if a person made an innocent mistake, where he gave zakat, for example, thinking, I could give it to the masjid, so I gave it to the masjid. If he done that, yes, he can get rewards as sadaqah, as normal general charity. Does he get the rewards, meaning the fulfillment of his zakat? No. No, he has to redo the act of worship. Okay, so the matter of zakat is not going to be belittled. If a person does it incorrectly, it's a major sin, and it stays as a debt on his neck, which he has to go back and do again. The booklet is just a summary of zakat, and it goes through some of the main rulings of zakat, the different types of zakat, where you pay zakat to, etc., etc. All of that, inshallah azza wa jal, we'll go through. We'll begin from it, and inshallah we will complete it. It should only take a few weeks. Okay, it should only take a few weeks. Obviously, a lot of people are going to have a lot of questions to do with zakat. If anything comes up throughout the lesson that you want clarification on or you want to ask questions about, please just save them to the end, like we always do. Just write them down, and inshallah azza wa jal, we'll take it at the end. We'll read through and explain where needed. Lesson number 1, zakat. The definition linguistically, zakat means to grow and to increase. And Islamically, zakat is an entitlement which is determined by the Sharia from particular assets, which is to be given at the same time it becomes obligatory to a certain group of people. Whenever you go through Islamic fiqh and you speak about an Islamic matter, you're going to have the linguistic meaning, al-lughawi, okay, the definition, al-lughawi, the linguistic meaning, and then you're going to have al-istilahi, the technical definition. The two are very important. Because there's always a link in the Sharia between the two. Between the linguistic meaning of something and the technical use of that word in the Sharia. In the Sharia, as-zakah means to purify and to grow. To purify and to grow. When you refer to it in zakah, in the Sharia, the technical term, it's obviously talking about the money that you're going to give as the obligatory charity. What's the connection between growth and purity and the zakat that you give out of the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the obligatory charity? What's the connection between the two? Yalla shabab, quick.
You get hasanat.
Tayyib. That's not part of growing and purifying in and of itself.
Just spreading the bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
That's a far connection.
Purifying your mind.
Good, you're purifying your wealth. One of it is the purification of your wealth. So to purify and to grow. When a person earns his wealth, there may be an aspect of haram in there that he didn't pay attention to. There may be something that he said or done, or a job that he took part in that was not pure. And so maybe there's that aspect of his wealth which is not 100% halal. And so when he's giving in zakat, he's purifying his wealth from anything that is bad. They have the growth aspect,
Barakah.
the barakah. Okay, the blessing that Allah Azza wa Jalla places in your wealth when you give in charity. When you give in charity, a person has his wealth blessed. This, again, this connection between the linguistic definition and the technical definition is very important, because you start to see why Allah Azza wa Jalla gave certain things their names in the Sharia. Yani the salah. What does a salah mean in the linguistic sense?
Relationship.
Heavy sila. This is, some of the ulama did say it's also included from salah. Yes. Some of the ulama did say it's a connection. Yani salah min as-sila. Okay. From this meaning, your connection, your relationship to who?
Allah.
To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Good. But also, the main and the common and the majority of ulama, salah, what's the linguistic term? Dua. Good, mashallah, tabarakallah. Dua. Okay, dua. Inna salataka, when Allah Azza wa Jalla talks about the salah of the Prophet ﷺ, sakanun lahum, he's not talking about the salah itself, he's talking about the dua. The dua of the Prophet ﷺ for the believers. The dua of the Prophet ﷺ for the believers. So the linguistic definition of salah is dua, for a person to make dua. And you obviously understand the connection between the linguistic definition and the technical definition. The salah is a set of actions and statements, beginning with the takbir, ending with the taslim. What's the connection between the dua, okay, the linguistic definition of salah, dua, and the salah itself? What's the connection?
For one Allah.
They're both ibadah, both for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's a very, 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 very big connection. Very wide connection, very far. Give me something closer. What's the connection between dua and salah?
You're asking Allah for, like, you're connecting yourself closer and closer to Allah.
Submitting.
Yeah, but submitting is in every act of worship. Connecting is in all acts of worship. What's something specific about the salah and dua?
Fard.
Yani other acts of worship, they're not fard. You're doing it for yourself. Now when you see it read Quran, same thing. Allah yahdikum now. Wallah, it's very. Alhamdulillah. Yani 4 years of journey to the hereafter, and I think we're going to start again. They're all ibadat. Come on, man. Please, Allah khalid. What's the connection between as-salah? We said there's always a connection between the linguistic definition and the Islamic or technical definition. يعني في ربط بين المعنى اللغوي والمعنى الاصطلاحي. The salah in the Arabic language means dua. In the Arabic language means dua. We know in the technical usage of the word salah, it's the salah that we just read Maghreb. That's called salah in Islam. What's the connection between the definition in dua and the salah that we do? What's the connection?
No.
Blame our teacher.
Wallah, wallah, blame your teacher. Wallah, blame your teacher.
for
طيب, يعني I'm trying to make the question as easy as possible.
Salah fi dua.
There's something.
Salah fi dua.
أكثر.
Action.
أكثر. زيد. No, he said in the salah there's dua. In the salah there's dua. When's the طيب, a communication between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? These are introductory points to it. That you're in communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What's one of the main pillars in the salah?
Sujood.
We're going to get to that one. We're going to get before, but what's one of the main pillars? What's one of the main things that you do? Every single rak'ah.
تكبيرة الإحرام.
Takbirat al-Ihram every single rak'ah. Give me, someone get me a rope now. So I'm going to finish myself. Al-Fatiha. Al-Fatiha. What's Al-Fatiha?
دعاء.
Al-Fatiha is a dua.
Yeah.
Tayyib, say that. They say yes, or as if you said it from the
No,
beginning.
they said دعاء. But he said, what's the difference between دعاء?
I said, what's the difference? I said, what's the
What's the
difference?
connection?
Allah yahdik. Allah yahdini ana.
والله صعبة يا شيخ. صعبة يا شيخ.
لا سهلة. سهلة. This is something very important. Why? Because we're saying it's very important, very, very, very important for us to try and understand when Allah Azza wa Jalla called something, why did He call it that? Especially the things that we do every single day. When a person knows that when you give zakat, part of its meaning, the definition linguistically of zakat is that a person is purifying his wealth and Allah is increasing his wealth. The person with a bit of iman, is he going to be scared to give zakat? With a bit of iman, he's not going to be scared. Because he's going to say, how am I scared to give zakat and Allah is increasing my wealth? Allah is purifying my wealth. Allah Azza wa Jalla is blessing my wealth. He won't have an issue. So this is part of why it's important to understand the linguistic definition. Tayyib, same thing with salah. Salah, if we understand that this is a connection between us and Allah, it's a conversation between us and Allah, it's a dua between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are supplicating, you are asking Allah. Most people, when it comes to, for example, Salat al-Jum'ah, let's say, let's say maybe you have 400 people. Okay? If you have 400 people, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. 400 people say what? Ameen. And mashallah, they say it beautifully and they say it in unison and everything. How many of those 400 people do you actually think were thinking in their mind that I just made a dua to Allah Azza wa Jalla? How many people you actually felt that they were making dua? All of them, you reckon, Malik?
Yeah.
Delusional. You're still young, it's fine. You're going to get to the real world soon, inshallah.
Oh, wow.
Delusional.
This is why
Okay?
I answer questions.
This is why it's so funny when you get, there's another verse in the Quran, I forgot what verse it is, but also it ends in Dallin. And you always get one guy in the salah that always says Ameen. Even though it's not al-Fatiha. Now, but because they're just waiting for that lean at the end of it, Ameen. Now, they don't pay attention. It's very sad, but okay, they say it. But how many of them actually were in their mind saying, Ya Allah, guide me to the straight path. I don't want to be misguided. I don't want to be like those who your anger is upon. I don't want to be like those who have gone astray. I don't want to be like those people. I want to be like the ones, Ya Allah, that you are happy with. How many of them actually had that feeling? Not many. Not many. Okay? So when you understand this is a dua, when you're praying, you're making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have not only in al-Fatiha, even in your sujood. Like the doctor said, the sujood. The closest the person will be to his Lord is when? In sujood. أَقْرَبْ مَا يَكُونُ الْعَبْدُ مِنْ رَبِّهِ وَهُوَ سَاجِدٌ. The closest a person is to his Lord is when he is in sujood. And what are you meant to be doing in sujood? After you do your tasbihat, you're meant to be doing dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're meant to be doing dua to Allah Azza wa Jal. When you do your tahiyyat, your tashahud, التحيات لله والصلوات والطيبات والسلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. You're making dua to Allah Azza wa Jal. You're making dua to Allah Azza wa Jal to send blessings upon the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, to send blessings upon the believers. When you do your Ibrahimiyya, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad, you're making dua. And after your tashahud, what are you doing? You're doing dua. Allahumma inni a'udhu min adhab al-qabr, min adhab jahannam. And then after that, what are you meant to be doing? You're meant to be making dua also. From the sunnah is that fi dubur as-salah, towards the end of salah, before the taslim, also you make dua. If anyone's ever prayed behind Shaykh Abu Ayman, he knows that in the last tashahud, may Allah Azza wa cue him, subhanAllah, he's very sick. In the last tashahud, sometimes people will be waiting 2, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes sometimes, And then after, Assalamu alaikum, they ask, and Sheikh, what were you doing? And then why did you take so long after the Ibrahimiyya, after the Tashahud in Ibrahimiyya? Because this is a time where the Prophet ﷺ said the dua is accepted. The dua is accepted. So the salah, yes, there's a lot of afkar in it, there's a lot of remembrances, but a lot of it is dua. A lot of it is dua. And not only things that you're meant to say, yani that you need to say throughout your salah, like al-Fatiha, the Tashahud, the Ibrahimiyya. And then there's also additional things that the Prophet ﷺ told us about. And then there's also open for you to make whatever dua you want, like in the sujood and in the end of the prayer, etc. And then even when you finish, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, you're making dua. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, you're making dua. Now, for the salah is all about dua. The salah is all about dua. And so again, a person should make sure that they have the understanding with them, so that inshallah azza wa jal, when they're praying, they actually mean the dua that they say. They mean the dua that they say, because when a person makes dua, there are things that help get it accepted by Allah azza wa jal. From amongst those things is a tadarru' ila Allah azza wa jal. For a person to truly, humbly call upon Allah azza wa jal, truly mean what they are saying. If a person, Ameen, he says Ameen after the Imam read al-Fatiha, and he couldn't care, guidance, no guidance, straight path, back straight, he doesn't care, this is a problem. Okay, this is a problem, and it leads to this dua not being accepted. Islamically, the Islamic definition, zakat is an entitlement, and zakat is something that is needs to be given. It needs to be given, it's not yours. Okay, you're not giving, this is from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He gives you the reward for doing the act. But ultimately, this is not your wealth. This wealth that a person has, that is due for zakat, automatically it's taken out of your wealth. It's not yours anymore. You're a custodian of it, but you need to pass it on to someone else. The people who are entitled to it. It is an entitlement which is determined by the Sharia from particular assets. It is not up to someone to put rules that the Sharia did not put. When it comes to acts of worship, no one can increase. Like for example, one of the categories that a person doesn't have to give zakat on diamonds, for example. Diamonds. Why? Because the Sharia didn't specify that you need to pay zakat on diamonds. So he made an obligation to pay zakat on gold and silver and cash, etc. But diamonds, it didn't say you have to pay zakat on. Someone may come and ask, Tayyib, if in the Sharia you have to pay zakat on gold, some diamonds are worth more than gold. Why don't you have to pay zakat on gold? We say this is something that the Sharia specified. So that the Sharia specified, and so we can't add on to what the Sharia did not bring. This is in zakat specifically. Other matters, these are different. When it comes to zakat, it's things that the Sharia itself specified. Same thing with certain crops. Same thing with certain animals. Maybe they may be worth more than what we're going to speak about. Like camels and sheep and cows. Maybe a person may have, for example, parrots. Okay, and those parrots, mashallah, they're worth $5,000 each, or $15,000. One of them, tabarakallah, $60,000. I don't know what, anyways, green egg, okay, $60,000. Does he have to pay zakat on it? It's tough needs for him. Okay, he just wants to house, he wants to pay $60,000 for a parrot. It's his. Does he have to pay zakat on it? No. But what about if a person has a certain amount of sheep? Does he have to pay zakat? Yes. What one's more expensive, the parrot or the sheep? The parrot. But did the Sharia specify? No. So we don't say he has to pay zakat on it. Okay, so we'll get to the specific categories that the Sharia itself specified. From particular assets which is to be given at the time it becomes obligatory to a certain group of people. When the zakat is due, it needs to be given. Most zakat, because most people they only have zakat, they only have zakatable assets like wealth, gold, silver. This is given one set time a year. But then there are other matters like the plants and the seeds that a person has. This needs to be given as soon as a person harvests it. Okay, but these are different matters. But not many people know them because not many people do them. But if a person was to, then it has to be given the day that it's taken out, not just once a year. If you don't have money and you right now, again, and your zakat is due, it says a debt on your neck. But if a person has the ability to pay when the zakat is due, it has to be given straight away at that time that it's due. To a certain group of people, as we mentioned, we're going to go through. All of these we're going to go through in a lot of detail, inshallah. It can only be given to a certain group of people. Zakat is the obligatory charity that a person has to give. Then you have sadaqah. Sadaqah is general and it's open. Sadaqah, do whatever you want. Muslim, non-Muslim, family member, not family member, masjid, nursing home, wherever you want. Sadaqah is open. Sadaqah, a person can do with a smile, a person can do with a good word. Sadaqah, the door is flexible and it's open. Zakat has very specific rules, and if a person gave it to the wrong person, then they need to redo that, even if it happened many years or many times. A person again has to go and redo all of it. The status and ruling of zakah. The zakah is the third pillar from the pillars of Islam, and many texts have conveyed that explain that it is obligatory and make it obligatory to be paid, encourage for it to be carried out, and warn against neglecting it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ, and perform the prayer and give as zakah. The simple fact that Allah Azza wa linked these two shows how important it is. Shows how important it is. The simple fact that it's a pillar of Islam shows how important it is. Again, there are reasons and wisdoms when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives a certain status to certain acts of worship. Yani, certain people, let's just say our community now here, certain people, if they see their son eating bacon, they'll have a heart attack. They'll drop dead and die. If he sees his son not pray, Allah yahdi, inshallah he gets better. But he won't go off at his son, he won't see it as a major thing, no problem. Some people, again, if they see their daughter taking drugs or out with a boy, they'll have a heart attack. Their daughter maybe has lived and worked her whole life and she's never paid zakat once. She's never paid zakat once. It's better for her to commit those haram than to miss zakat. Okay, or it's better for him to eat bacon but not miss his salah. But the people, unfortunately, their scale is off. And this is what happens when knowledge drops and when iman drops. People do not understand to give things its proper weight. Those things are bad, yes, but are they as bad as not praying and not giving zakat? Nowhere near. Nowhere near. This is a pillar of Islam, meaning this is something major. Allah didn't make not eating bacon a pillar of Islam, or not taking drugs a pillar of Islam, or not committing zina a pillar of Islam, even though they're all bad. They're all bad. But are they as bad as a person not fulfilling a pillar? No. A pillar means it holds something up. This is something that Allah Azza wa Jalla chose to be something that holds up your religion. It holds up your religion, it holds up the community, it holds up the ummah. And if only people were to fulfill it, then you would see the world in a different state. The world in a different state regarding the wealth of people. You would see people's own individual financial statuses very different, and you would see a lot of people in terms of their understandings of their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and their worship of Allah very different. You'd see people very different. But again, when it's neglected, you have people that are affected with their wealth and their lack of barakah. You have a community and communities that's affected. You have social cohesion that's affected. You see people, unfortunately, with poverty and the like, and it's an ongoing flowing effect of problems when people neglect to give their zakah. The Prophet ﷺ said, Islam is built upon 5: the testimony that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah, and that Muhammad ﷺ is the messenger of Allah, to establish the prayer, to pay the zakah, to perform hajj, and to fast Ramadan. This is a hadith everyone knows about the 5 pillars of Islam. Again, one of them being az-zakah. What is the ruling on the person who denies zakah? A person who says there's no such thing as zakat in Islam.
Okay.
This is very rare. This is very rare to come nowadays, but this happened in the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. In the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, there are people who denied to give the zakah anymore. Okay? And they said that we used to give it to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away. Khalas, there's no more zakah that we're going to give. Whoever denies that zakah is obligatory while having knowledge of its ruling has disbelieved and he committed kufr, because here they have contradicted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the unanimous agreement of the Muslim scholars, ijma'. If there's something that is ma'lumun fi ad-dini bid-darura or ma'lumun min ad-dini bid-darura, if someone knows something, or if someone denies something or disbelieves in something that is known in the religion by necessity, then this is kufr. There's a difference between not doing an act knowing that it's an obligation, or doing an act knowing that it's haram, and when you deny the ruling. Example, hijab. Every Muslim on the face of on the earth knows hijab is an obligation upon the Muslim woman. Every Muslim knows. Doesn't matter whether you're a scholar or you're a layman, everyone knows. If a woman doesn't wear the hijab, is she a Muslim, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. But she's committing a major sin. As long as she believes it's fard, yani what she's doing is haram, she's still a Muslimah, but she's committing a major sin. Different to a woman who says, or even a man who says, hijab is not fard. If someone says hijab is not fard, or hijab is not from Islam, then this is a person who's going against the Quran, and going against the Sunnah, and going against the Muslim consensus, and they are denying something that is known in the religion by necessity, which means that they have committed an act of kufr. An act of kufr. And this is one of the things that is constantly being attacked in our religion, things which are called musallamat, things which are known. No Muslim differs over. Now things which are known in the religion by necessity, that they are becoming attacked now. Things like hijab, things like concept of jihad, things like hudud, Islamic penal code, etc. Things like accepting the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, saying there's such thing as the sunnah, there's such thing as the hadith, etc. All of these things, a'yadhu billah, can take a person outside of the fold of Islam. These things are very dangerous, and they're affecting many of our youth, so be careful regarding them. So the one who says such thing as zakat, this person is, a'yadhu billah, a kafir outside of the fold of Islam. Then what about the ruling of someone who withholds the zakat? Yani he believes it's an obligation, but he doesn't give it. The one who withholds paying the zakat out of miserliness, yani he's stingy, but without denying that it is an obligation, should have the zakat taken from him. If there's an Islamic ruler, if a person doesn't pay the zakat freely from his own soul, the Muslim ruler goes and takes it off him out of force, just like your taxes. And if you don't give it any freely, they'll come and they'll take it by force. While such a person should not be declared to be a disbeliever, they should be punished for withholding the zakat if they have knowledge that it is not permissible to do so. So in a Muslim state, an Islamic state, then the person has their zakat taken off them forcefully, and they get some sort of punishment. That's left up to the ruler. In the Sharia, there's a had, a punishment that the Sharia set, and then there's something called ta'zir. Ta'zir. If the Sharia did not specify a specific punishment for an act, then Islam gave the right for the ruler to come up with an appropriate punishment. So for example, a person drinking alcohol, is there a punishment in the Sharia for it? What's the punishment? 80 lashes. MashaAllah. That's two good questions. MashaAllah, you've answered. If a person steals,
Cut his hand.
shukran. If a person commits zina, it could be whipping or it could be stoning in the Sharia. If a person accuses a chaste woman of committing immoral acts, a woman who's, for example, a pure woman, he accuses her of committing zina, or accuses him of committing zina.
Without four witnesses, lashes.
Without four witnesses, lashes. Okay, so there's punishments that the Sharia itself has set. The punishment for not praying.
Habas.
Yeah. No. First, you isolate him, or he's isolated, then he's jailed, and then he's killed.
I miss your father. Anjad, your father answers better than you, subhanAllah.
My father.
Anjad زعلتني. I've been gone for 1 week. 1 week رجعت خلاص ما في حدا.
The ruler told him to pray, he doesn't pray, they kill him.
Yeah, but not straight away.
يستتاب 3 أيام. He's told to repent. He's locked up for 3 days. You said isolated. Anyway, خلاص, I'll take it that that's what you meant.
Oh, fair enough.
Isolation, because isolation, there's a common called al-hajar. Al-hajar, okay, or tahjir. There's either to boycott him, like no one speaks to him, or there's actually kick him out of the land. That's called isolation. That's a specific punishment in the Sharia. This is a habas. Okay, a person goes and he's locked up for 3 days, and he's told to repent, to start praying, etc. If he doesn't start praying, then we say Assalamu alaikum, to his head from his shoulders.
قلبنا
كبنية. More like مفروم, but يعني. The Hanafi madhab is that he gets locked up for life until he prays. That's the Hanafi madhab. Now, at the other madhab, Assalamu alaikum. A lot of people don't know that about the salah. Okay, they don't know that there's a punishment for a person who doesn't pray. طيب, is there يعني a wisdom behind the Sharia putting these severe punishments for certain acts? What's some of the wisdom? What's some of the amazing? The reason I'm mentioning some of these topics and mentioning going through some of these questions is because there are things that people, they get into discussions about, or that Islam does get attacked from it. They say, oh, it's too harsh, or it's barbaric, or it's backwards, etc.
To create fear.
From the main reasons, mashallah, Moja, I don't know what's happened from last month, but tabarakallah, one, you're not asleep, and I don't know how it's 8:30, and number two, you've entered 3 very good questions, and you've even used an amazing word, tabarakallah. I didn't even know that was in his vocabulary. Allahumma barik. I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing it right, tabarakallah. Allahu alhamdulillah. From the main benefits of the Islamic punishments, if a person was to commit them, like cutting off the hand, or a person being killed, or a person being lashed, from the main wisdoms of it is that it's a deterrent. It's a deterrent, meaning it stops people from doing it in the first place. In Australia, for example, again, the reasons to commit crimes actually aren't that much. Most people, they commit crimes because they want to commit a crime, not because they need to. If someone, like for example, is a thief, or someone is a murderer or whatever, it's usually to do with want, not to do out of need. Okay? The jails, they are full of people. Full of people. Why are the jails full? Why are we struggling where we're going to put these people? Because some people going to jail in America. Because some people going to jail. Okay, why? Why are they all going to jail? Why do we have a problem with now, like in Australia, we're going to give people any parole or bail that don't deserve parole or bail? Because we want to get them out of the system, because it's too full. Why do we have that issue? Because there isn't enough of a deterrent. They're not worried. A guy says, for me to go to jail, like he looks at it, it's like an investment. If I go commit a whole spate of crimes, don't do it, boys. But if I go commit a whole spate of crimes, let's say I amass $1.5, $2 million. Let's say $1 million. All right, I'm going to go to jail, let's say armed robbery, first offense. Let's say I get, for example, 3 years, 4 years. With parole. Tayyib. 4 years, $1 million divided by 4 years, 250 grand, 250 grand, yes, man. That guy over there goes, it's tax free as well. That's what I'm saying, that's how they look at it. They look at it like, I'm going to jail, I know I'm going to go to jail, I'm going to stash the money somewhere, I'm going to go to jail for 4 years, come out, I'm going to have $1 million. Like, what, it wasn't a bad investment. They're not scared of doing it, but imagine a person having in his mind, if I go, I'm going to get my hand chopped off. You can't even wear a nice watch. What do I really want to live the rest of my life without a hand? Do I really want to do that? If I get done, and then he says again, he gets his foot cut off. This is not something simple. Something big. Like, do you want to again live like that? It's not easy to live without a hand. So a lot of people say, no, I'm not going to bother doing that. And a lot of non-Muslims that live in Muslim countries where they apply this, they say we cannot believe how safe those countries are. In many of the Emirati countries, until now they have certain aspects of Sharia. One of them is the cutting off the hand for the thief. They tell you can leave your door open, you can leave your car open. I know a lot of my friends in Dubai and these places, they've never taken their key out of their car. Some of them, not my particular friends, but others that are there, they'll have we drive like Lamborghinis and it stays in the car. Some of them, because it's hot, if they go to the masjid, they'll leave their car running. And they'll go into the masjid and come out with their car on so the aircon doesn't turn off. And you're talking about like $1 million car or whatever. Here you have a Toyota Corolla and you have to put a security guard at the front. Because you're worried about someone breaking in. Now over there, mashallah, a house is unlocked. Sometimes the goods will be moved from one place to another. And these are the safest places on earth. In Saudi Arabia, if you go there, again, it doesn't have the same record as other places, but not everyone, one non-Muslim, I remember reading a long time ago that because of the cutting off their hand, they expected when they went to Saudi Arabia, they're going to see everyone just like one hand. Okay, because they said they're looking thinking like Australia, like there's a lot of theft. Or the West, where they were from, I think it was from America. There's a lot of theft. So they weren't expecting to see so many people with their hand cut off. And like, everyone had two hands. It's because no one wants to steal in the first place. Okay, no one wants to steal in the first place. So it's a deterrent. It's a deterrent. Same thing with like zina. Okay, it's a deterrent. If a person knows they're going to fall into that, it's a deterrent. Drinking alcohol, it's a deterrent. Again, he's speaking about other people badly, it's a deterrent. Whereas what we have in the West just doesn't work, and it's proven not to work. The amount of murders that we have doesn't work. You don't hear of these things in Muslim countries, especially where the Sharia is upheld. You don't hear of these numbers. People killing each other over stupid things. You don't hear of these things. Okay, drug trafficking, drug usage and the like. Yes, of course it's there. You will never ever ever have a perfect system on earth, never. Even if a country implements Sharia 100%, you're still going to have haram there. Because you're on earth. Perfection is only in Jannah, not on earth. So you're always going to have an issue. But to what extent is the question? The Sharia is going to make things as best as it can humanly be. Jayyid. This is one deterrent. What about some people that say no, we shouldn't have these types of punishments. We should come up with new punishments that fit in with modern societies. Is this allowed in Islam? To change the
innovation.
Innovation, okay, good, shukran. Adam says no, of course not. We're not allowed to change the rulings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specified in the Sharia. Well, that which Allah Azza wa Jal made as part of the Sharia, we're not allowed to change them. When it's something set, something set. Okay, even a lot of the concepts of today, it's not like how we had before. Like for example, the concept of a jail. The concept of a jail is very rarely used under Sharia itself. Well, it takes a person away from his family, it causes generational problems, psychological problems, like the kids grow up without a father, etc. A lot of the habas and decision that was known before was that it was in the house. A person stays in the house, like what they call house arrest today. Okay, yes, you can't get here, you can't get there, you're limited in your movements, but you're under house arrest. At least your kids still have a father, you don't cause major issues. Whereas here, in the societies that we live in, a person could be, for example, 4, 5, 6 hours away from his family. So his kids grow up without a father, and they don't get to see them. And so now it just transfers, the psychological damage transfers to the children. And so now they have a much higher chance of them becoming criminals. So there's a lot of things in the Sharia that was subhanAllah set up and done in a way which is extremely wise, and it's the best possible punishment for the people. On top of it being a deterrent, it also is something which is fair and just for the society itself. So don't listen and give people the ear that like to complain about the Sharia and the rulings of the Sharia. At least it works. At least it works. As civilized as other people try and say that they are or make themselves to be, the crime rate in those countries is crazy. The conditions that make zakat an obligation. Number one, being a Muslim. It is not valid from a disbeliever because Allah does not accept the deeds of a disbeliever. If a non-Muslim becomes Muslim, they don't have to make up the zakat that they had before. It starts from when they become a Muslim. Now, and if someone paid their zakat, let's just say someone was learning about Islam, and then they said, you know what, I want to start praying, I want to start fasting, just as they were learning, and I want to also give zakat. So they gave a big amount of money as their zakat, and then they became Muslim. That zakat does not count for anything as a Muslim. The year starts new from when they become a Muslim, and when the time is due, that's when their obligation is paid. Okay, but and what they get from before, does the disbeliever get rewarded for anything that they do in this dunya? And Allah gives them their reward in this dunya. Food, drink, shelter, safety, health, etc. This is the disbeliever's reward. As for the hereafter, then there's no reward for the disbeliever. But no act of worship is accepted from a disbeliever. It only is when they are Muslims, this is when acts of worship are accepted. As an example, let's say someone came to the masjid to take his shahada. And the boy said, khalas, we're going to pray Salat al-Isha, go make wudu, and then come and take your shahada. So they took him, he made wudu, and then they brought him outside. And the Sheikh, yani, gave him a talk and he took his shahada. Can he pray Salat al-Isha?
No, he's got
Bilal says yes. He has to again do wudu again. Why? Because the wudu that he done, didn't do as a Muslim. So it's not accepted. Okay, it's not accepted. Any act of worship for it to be accepted, number one condition, he has to be a Muslim. Number two, freedom. It is not obligatory for a slave since his wealth is the property of his master. There is such thing as slavery in Islam. Daily Telegraph. There is such thing as slavery in Islam. A person can't just choose to become a slave, nor do you just make someone a slave. Slavery was something that was practiced by literally the whole world. Okay, and when Islam came, it didn't come and change things straight away. It regulated what was there. Some things it stopped, some things it regulated. When and how does a person become a slave? A person becomes a slave in two main times. Number one, when you're in war, and then there are prisoners of war. Then those prisoners, the Muslim leader decides what happens to them. Whatever is in the best interest of the Muslims. So for some, they might ransom back. The enemy pays and you release the prisoners. Some, you may ransom for a benefit. So for example, let's say they have certain skills. Let's say one of them is a doctor. So you say, work for 5 years treating the Muslims and you'll be free. Or teach someone medicine and you'll be free. The Prophet ﷺ done that with reading and writing with some of the prisoners of war. Teach how to read and write and then you'll be free. We'll give you your freedom based on that condition. Some may be put to death as a prisoner of war. They, again, if the Muslim ruler says for whatever reason that the benefit is to kill them, then he'll kill them. Some he may free. Just like that. He says, Khalas, you know what? We'll let you go. Some it may be a part of the ransom, like a swap for the Muslim prisoners. Some they can take as slaves. Okay, it all goes back to the Muslim leader and what he sees as the most benefit to the Muslims at that time. The second main time is when a person is born into slavery. Born into slavery. So their mother or their father is a slave and then they get born into that as slaves. Obviously, a lot of people, they have like, it's like slavery is a big sensitive point and a lot of people like are really, look at it in a really negative way. Obviously, slavery is not nice. Slavery is not nice. But slavery in Islam is nothing like the pictures and the stories that people see and hear of the slavery that happened in America and other countries like Australia. Okay? Slavery was nothing like that whatsoever. In Islam, the slaves have a crazy amount of rights. Again, I'm not saying a person is going to be happy that they were a slave, but it's not like, wallah, I can beat them and I can force them to do things which are above what they're able to do and they died in the streets. No. Slavery in Islam, the master has to feed them what he eats, has to clothe them what he wears. The master has to look after them. The Prophet ﷺ put a crazy amount of emphasis on teaching them, on correcting their manners, on educating them. Some of the greatest scholars in Islam, they were slaves, or they were the sons of slaves, and they were taught by their masters. Some of the greatest scholars in Islam, some of the big muhaddithin, some of the big fuqaha, they were slaves. Okay, but they were taught by their masters, or they were the children who were supported, the children of slaves who were supported by their masters in order for them to learn the religion, and they got to extremely high levels. Now, for a person to be a slave, he's still your Muslim brother. You're not allowed to belittle him. You're not allowed to say, listen, this is where we pray, you pray at the back somewhere. No, they pray with the Muslims. Okay, they have to be treated well. If a person like oppresses, like he bashes his slave, for example, okay, from the punishment could be that he needs to be freed. If a person commits certain acts that are a sin, okay, he needs to free a slave. Or one of the options to expiate that sin is to free a slave. So Islam came and regulated slavery. And if the slave had a lot of rights, if the master done something wrong, he goes to the court and he can do a complaint about his master. And there's a lot of things to do with slaves, a lot of rulings to do with slaves. Even the Sharia make things easier on them. In certain matters like acts of worship, Like they don't have to come to the Jummah, they don't have to pray Jama'ah, etc. Certain things the Sharia made easier for them because of their state. Now, so just don't think that slavery is like what we have or what they had in the West. It's a very, 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 very different concept altogether. So a slave doesn't pay zakat. Why? Because his money is his master's money. Number 3, for a person to be in possession of the nisab. So there needs to be a minimum amount. A minimum amount for a person to have. That's when his time starts to pay the zakat. That is a specified minimum amount of wealth. The zakat is obligatory for whoever is in possession of it. It is not obligatory upon those who have wealth that is less than it. So we'll come to know, for example, sheep. The nisab, the minimum amount for sheep is 40 sheep. So if a person has 5 in his backyard, he doesn't pay zakat on it. Okay, you have the nisab, the minimum amount. Again, we're going to get into the details of all of them later on, inshallah. Number 4, to be in full possession of that wealth. That is that the wealth must be owned by a specific individual and that he or she must be in full possession of it. So the zakat is not obligatory on wealth that is not owned by a specific individual, such as money collected for building a masjid, or funds for social welfare or the poor, or money that is in the boxes of charity institutes and relief organizations. It needs to be your money that you actually have and that you have control over. Yani something, let's say the masjid. Let's say the masjid had $5,000. Does it pay zakat on it? No. Why? Because it's not owned by an individual. It's owned by the masjid itself to look after the needs of the masjid and the community. Or let's say money that's yours but you don't have control over it. You don't have access to it. You lended someone $20,000. That person hit a runner. You don't know where they are anymore. Okay, you try and call them, no one answers. Where's this person? No one knows. Am I going to get my money back? Probably not. That money you don't have to pay zakat on because you don't have control over it. Money that you have access to, let's say you lent someone $20,000, but he's there and he's going to pay it, inshallah. You still have to pay zakat on that wealth, as we'll come to know. But someone who's hit the runner, you're like, I'm never going to get my money back, that you don't pay zakat on. Number 5, the passing of 1 year. It's not for everything, only certain matters. The zakat becomes obligatory when a whole Hijri year, it's another thing, Hijri year. Not Gregorian calendar, because there's days that are different. Approximately 10 days each year. So you got to be careful. Sometimes a person, he hasn't paid his zakat based on the Hijri calendar. He's paid it on the Gregorian calendar. So let's say he says, the 1st of January, I'll pay my zakat. But if you do that long enough, you'll skip 1 whole year. It has to be based on the Hijri calendar. That's why, to be easy, a lot of people just put it in Ramadan. Like the 1st of Ramadan or the 21st of Ramadan, I'll pay my zakat every year. Okay, to make it nice and easy for them. The zakat becomes obligatory when a whole Hijri year has passed while in possession of the wealth. There are some things for which the passing of a wealth is not conditional. So this is only for mainly gold, cash and silver and trade goods. As for other matters, then whenever a person has it. So when does the Hijri calendar not count? When a person is paying zakat on the produce of harvested from the earth, such as grains and fruits, the zakat of these should be paid when they are harvested. I don't think anyone fits in the category, but we'll explain it when we get there, inshallah. Bride products of al-an'am. Okay, so the animals that a person has, and let's say you've got 40 sheep, for example. Okay, and you want to pay zakat on them, and those 40 sheep, you give birth. Okay, so now let's say you've got 60 from the 40. Do you have to wait the new 20? Do you have to wait 1 whole year? No. You add them onto the original amount. You add them onto the original amount when it's due. Their zakat is due at the same time as their source, their parents. The profits from trade, the zakat on this is due at the same time as the original capital. It's another big thing. Let's say someone, he has wealth. He invested 100 grand. Okay, and from that 100 grand, like he bought stock, and then he made it, mashallah, 300 grand from it. Does the extra 200, does he have to pay it, or does he wait 1 whole year for it? No. Whatever time the original 100 is due, the rest of it from that 100 is also due. And again, all of it we'll explain in more detail when we get there, inshallah. So the conditions again, that the person is a Muslim, that the person is free, that the person is in possession of the nisab, that a person has full possession of the wealth, and that 1 whole year has passed, or the time is due for it for the other matters. There's something which is not mentioned there that is usually mentioned when it comes to acts of worship. There's three main conditions that's always mentioned when it comes to an act of worship. Him being Muslim, and then there's two others that are always mentioned.
Who you give it?
That a person is aqil, a person is sane, and a person has.
One second, Sheikh. The Islam has reached him. So he's Muslim.
He's Muslim, he's sane, baligh. Okay, that he's reached the age of puberty. Is that in any of the conditions for zakat?
To who you give it?
No, the zakat is even if he's before puberty.
Good. Zakat, it's not a condition that a person has hit the age of puberty or that they are sane. Why?
What's the reason?
What's the reason?
Because someone else will pay for you. Or
Because
your minder will pay for you.
Yeah, but why? Why does he? For example, he doesn't have to pray. He doesn't have to fast. Why does he still have to give zakat?
It's for the household.
Because for purification of your wealth.
Oh, along the lines, not food purification. Along the lines.
Man in the house.
No, he's insane. Yeah, he probably became insane after he got married. Sure. What is a person? So a person who's insane or a person who hasn't reached the age of puberty, they don't have to pray, they don't have to fast, they don't have to wear hijab, etc. Why do they still have to give zakat?
Get directed.
No.
Is it because he's still part of the society? He's still Muslim.
Yeah, why does he have to wear hijab? They're still Muslim.
This one, it's not his. You said that before. This amount of money, it's not related to.
Yeah, but why is it fard for him to pay zakat? But why does the zakat have? This is one explanation. Okay, it's not his wealth.
Pillar from Islam.
I'm going to use your words, Raghib, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Because the zakat has to do with a person's wealth, not the person himself. Yani the salah, siyam, hijab, is it who's it from? From the person himself. Yani the individual himself has to pray. The individual himself has to give fast siyam, fast Ramadan. But if they don't understand it, it's not an obligation upon them. Or if they're still young, they don't comprehend it properly, it's not an obligation from them. But zakat is to do with a person's wealth, his money. So it's not, he doesn't have to do it himself, someone can do it on his behalf. Praying, a person can't pray on your behalf. Fasting, a person can't fast on your behalf when you're alive and sane, a person can't do it. As for wealth, a person can give it on your behalf. Now, so zakat is to do with the person's wealth, not the individual themselves. And so, the zakat is an obligation even on those that haven't reached the age of puberty, or the people that are not sane, they still have to pay zakat if they are Muslim and they had the other conditions. So a lot of parents, they will, very common examples of this, some parents, they will put money aside in a savings account for their children. The guardian has to pay on their behalf. Okay, so let's say you put money away for your kids, and mashallah they got $5,000 in the bank. You have to pay zakat from that money every single year. Okay, either you can pay it from your own money on behalf of them, or you pay from that wealth itself. Also, another very common example of this is if a father or mother die and they leave inheritance for their children. So the kid might be 10 years old, but his father had like $100,000, so in his share is like 20,000. So they have $20,000 in their bank account. Okay, for when they become 18 or whatever, then they can take control over it. That money also needs to be paid zakat on. Okay, whoever is looking after them, their guardian, needs to pay zakat, and it can be paid from that wealth itself. This was the first lesson. Inshallah Azza wa Jalla will continue next week.